The crowd at the back stared at their backs in shock. They hadn't noticed before that Zia Zibai and Yang Xuan were related. "What's the matter?" Zia Zibai stepped out. When Yang Xuan caught sight of Zia Zibai, he couldn't help but be stunned, his eyes gleaming with astonishment. He knew that Zia Zibai was good-looking, otherwise, he wouldn't have chosen her as his girlfriend. It was a pity that she was always dressed in old-fashioned outfits, which did nothing but embarrass him. Besides, due to some special reasons, he had never taken her out before. If it weren't for the fact that she wanted to break up with him, he would never have turned up here. Unexpectedly, she showed up like a whole different person today. Before Yang Xuan could finish his words, he was cut off by Zia Zibai. "Let us talk over there." As she finished, she took the lead and walked away before him. This made Yang Xuan's face fall. Was he being too nice to her? Her arrogance was sky high now. Nonetheless, he still caught up with her. The crowd at the back stared at their backs in shock. They couldn't help but start gossiping away. Zia Zibai and that Yang Xuan were related. They hadn't noticed it before. Yang Xuan followed Zia Zibai to a remote and quiet corner. This was a blind spot of the security surveillance. Some students chose to resolve their issues here. Zia Zibai, stop right there. Yang Xuan was enraged. He stepped forth in wide strides and reached out to grab Zia Zibai's shoulder. However, with a swift movement of her feet, Zia Zibai dodged his hand and flashed a sarcastic smile at him. "Did you come to pay my money back?" Yang Xuan froze as she said those words. What money? What nonsense are you talking about?" Zia Zibai's smile turned even more sarcastic. "You told me that your father was in trouble, so I lent you 3,000 yuan. Later, you said that you wanted to purchase materials. I lent you another 2,000. Summing up all of those, you owe me at least 10,000 yuan. When are you paying me back?" Zia Zibai. Yang Xuan's face instantly turned red, and he grew even more furious. "When did I ever borrow money from you? Don't you speak carelessly? Is that so?" Of course, Yang Xuan quickly regained his composure. "You gave me the money yourself. I did not borrow it from you." Such shameless remarks made Zia Zibai laugh. "I can't even manage to feed myself, yet I gave you money. Am I stupid or what?" Of course, Zia Zibai was indeed foolish back then. She could barely make ends meet, and yet she generously provided financial support to Yang Xuan. They had not been together for more than half a year, and Yang Xuan had taken 10,000 yuan from her. It might not be a big amount to others, but as far as Zia Zibai was concerned, 10,000 yuan were all the savings she had. Yang Xuan was also shameless. He knew that Zia Zibai had to make money by working for people, yet he played the victim and asked money from her, without any sense of guilt. If it was only a matter of money, she might just as well forget it and pretend that the money had been dropped in water. However, what Zia Zibai could not tolerate was that, not only did he take her money, he even ruined her. Back then, she thought that it was her that had provoked the homeless man. However, a few years later, she found out that it had been arranged by Yang Xuan. The reason he did that was to teach her a lesson. Zia Zibai was reluctant to put herself in his hands, so he resorted to such means to make her understand a fact. Now that she had been tainted, it was her blessing that he still wanted to be with her. Listen, what a ridiculous justification. That wasn't even all to it. After that, he intended to give Zia Zibai away as a present. If Zia Zibai hadn't been alert and ran away in time, she would have ended up with an even more tragic fate. Several years later, here he was in Zia Zibai's life again, inflicting even more misery upon her. As she thought of it, Zia Zibai's eyes turned icy cold. "If you do not return my money..." "Return what money?" Yang Xuan said in a raised voice with his head held high. "It was you who gave me the money. Also, why are you breaking up with me? Are you seeing another man?" As she looked at the self-righteous Yang Xuan, who was behaving brazenly, Zia Zibai didn't get angry. After all, she had known his character far too well, and she came prepared. However, her reaction seemed guilty in the eyes of Yang Xuan, which only fueled his audacity. "Fantastic. You really cheated on me. Say it. Who is that man? I was wondering why you looked different today. It turned out that you're hooking up with another man." He looked Zia Zibai up and down with a measuring glance, and his rage intensified. No man would love being cheated on, let alone Yang Xuan, who was having other schemes up his sleeve. If I'd known you were this promiscuous, I would have slept with you already. Why bother acting all demure and innocent in front of me? Before he could finish his vulgar and foul remarks, he was cut off by a sweep of Zia Zibai's leg. He clutched his belly and staggered a few steps back. There was a surge of turbulence in his stomach, and he was gasping for breath. It wasn't over after she had launched the kick. Zia Zibai moved forward again and grasped him, and then she hurled him over her shoulder. With a bang, dirt and dust were sent flying from the ground. Yang Xuan screamed with greater horror. This time, he felt the sky and the earth spinning before his eyes even before his back hit the ground, which almost broke his bones. Zia Zibai's foot landed on his chest as she stared down at him from above. My apologies, but I'm way too busy to waste my time on you. As for our so-called relationship, we both know what's really going on. If you refuse to pay me back, that's all right. She flashed him a bright smile. Let us wait and see what's gonna happen. Right as she finished speaking, the bell began ringing. Zia Zibai snapped her fingers. Yeah. The class is starting. I have to go. Then she took off, just like that. Lying on the ground after many failed attempts of getting up, Yang Xuan was full of terror and bafflement. Was that really Zia Zibai? How could she be totally different from before? In fact, Yang Xuan wasn't really concerned about her threat. He was infuriated by Zia Zibai's attitude toward him. It seemed that she really had won someone else's favor. Otherwise, she wouldn't treat him so ruthlessly. In it, he wouldn't simply drop the matter. Zia Zibai couldn't care less about Yang Xuan's thoughts, so she returned to the class very soon. There were a few more minutes before the class began, and the teacher was yet to arrive. A girl scurried to her side when she saw her returning. Zibai, why did Yang Xuan look for you? Was he planning to make your relationship public? The girl had a tinge of hatred in her eyes when she spoke those words, but she was smiling, looking all lovely and innocent. She was good-looking, but compared to Zia Zibai, she looked way too bland and boring. As they stood next to each other, the difference was as if between a young lady and her servant. Jin Yazan knew the fact well. That was why she had so much resentment. What relationship? The other girls immediately gathered around them upon hearing the conversation. These nosy girls. You and Yang Xuan are in a relationship. I knew it. You guys looked really weird. Sure enough, there's something fishy going on. Some were bitter and jealous. It's hard to say at the moment. How would Yang Xuan even fall for Zia Zibai? Yang Xuan was indeed obnoxious, but he was fairly good-looking and popular in school, winning the favor of many girls. If Zia Zibai hadn't revealed her attractive side today, those people would have made even more insulting remarks. Putting all that aside, hardly anyone could rival Zia Zibai in looks, not even the face of the school from the neighboring class, Zia Qinghan. I didn't know that though. When were we ever in a relationship? Zia Zibai flashed a sarcastic smile at Jin Yazan. But earlier on, you said that you and him got together. Jin Yazan's voice was loud, which captured the attention of more people. Did you two break up?